Hey guys, let's talk Lua. Okay, so last video, one of the last videos anyways, I showed you .io or io.read, and when we typed the I, this drop-down menu popped up. This is extremely helpful because it shows us all of the functions that we have available to us. Now, each of these functions does a special thing, like the print function. The print function takes what you give it, gives what you give it, and it outputs that to the screen. So each of these does something special. What I want you to do is take a minute to go through all the letters of the alphabet. So for instance, on a QWERTY keyboard, if you pressed Q, it checks the Notepad++ checks to see if there are any functions available that start with Q. There are none. Now if you type W, you will get all of the functions that start with W, and thankfully there aren't that many. We have the very, very famous while function, which we'll get into at some point. Now then E, and so on and so forth. So take a second to type out each of the letters. Now, if you might find that you accidentally press the Enter key and it gets rid of the drop down and, of course, types out what you selected. If that happens and you press back to E, you backspace back to E, you'll notice that the drop down, it doesn't happen. And so what you need to do then is just backspace all the way and type E again. Quick note for all those Google Chrome users, if you don't have Notepad++, here's something you can try. Go to Google Notepad++, and then check out that app. Another quick note: if there's no drop-down menu that happens, first things first, go to Google and try to solve it yourself. So what I did here was I went to Google and then typed in Notepad++, not bringing up drop-down menu, and that gave me this Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is a great forum for solving tech issues, and it just kind of gives me a brief. This is not the same language, but it's related, and it says go to Settings, Preferences, Autocomplete. So let's check that out. All right, so I'm here on Notepad++, Settings, Preferences, and Autocomplete. Let's see here. Yeah, so here we have this checkbox, Enable Autocomplete on each input, and it's going to do both function and word completion. So that's just something to check out. If your settings are different, then you might want to make them the same as mine. All right, last thing to do before we move on from this video, I want you to actually try out some of the functions, because some of them you'll notice actually give you a value back. And remember, we can see these values by printing them. The other thing that you'll notice right above me is I typed out the print function, and it not only gives me a drop-down menu of the functions I can use, but it also gives me a whole description of what the thing does. Now, before I get into actually trying out some of the functions, I want to go back through my code and get rid of the .io, because that's going to be really annoying having to type in a number or some sort of input every single time that I run my code. All right, so that's commented out. Remember that to comment out, you use a double hyphen. That's the minus sign. And let's go ahead and try out a function. I don't know. Let's try out. What I did here was I typed O, and it brought up a large menu. And I found some kind of fun little functions here. OS clock. Let's see what happens. I just pressed enter once I was on the one that I wanted, and then I completed the print function by adding the last parentheses, the closed parentheses. Now save it by clicking or pressing Control S on a Windows machine. If you're on a Chromebook, it's the same. Then I head over to a command prompt, and last time I showed you getting there by typing the Windows key and then CMD. there's another way to do it, and that is by going to the folder. So navigate to the folder. In my case, it is on my desktop. So I pull up my desktop, and then I click on the folder that I care about, in this case Lua code. Right click in this window, and you should see, I'm sorry, you actually have to shift right click, and then it says open command window here, and that makes navigating the command prompt a little bit easier. I still want you to know what CD does and dir does, but it's so that you can navigate that way. But that's another way to open up a command prompt in a folder. We have to be in the folder that our code is in. And now we're going to type test.lua and press enter. And what do you know? It actually did something here. We forgot to comment out this line, line 3, which gave us the prompt. So that's a little bit confusing, but it tells me os dot when it ran os.clock, it gave me 002. Let's see what happens when I run it again. Interesting. So it kind of gives me different numbers. I don't know at all what these numbers mean, and we could determine that, I think, by simply, yeah, so for some reason it doesn't give me that help function that I was looking for. But at any rate, so that's this OS. Check out the other ones, OS date and so on and so forth. But so take a second to do that, and then once you're done, I've got one last thing to cover, and I'll let you guys go. All right, so the last thing that I want to show you guys is the M, or if you type M, it brings up this menu, and this is chock full of math functions. We need this. Now, some people are like, "Oh no, I can't do programming because I don't know how to do math." Well, actually, you don't necessarily have to do math. The computer does all of the math, and you just access the functions. So yeah, you need to know how to use the functions and what the functions do, but that's about it. So let's actually look up here and find something of interest. Absolute. So I believe inside of this, we need to type a number. If we save this and run it, there you go. So it actually, you can see that, right? This says, I typed in a -9 into the absolute value function, and that just is the distance from 0 that a number is. In this case, it's 9 from 0, and so it returns 9. So very simple, but yeah, we need to use this this absolute function. There are, well, I'm sorry, we need to use the math functions. There are other functions like the asterisks that are, I believe, just built in. Let's run that. Yeah, so that's a math function. It's part of the math library, but it's an operator that the language already knows. You don't have to do you don't have to type out math dot multiplication or something like that, which would be extremely annoying. You just use the asterisk. So that's how you kind of do some math, and that's the math function. Hope you guys learned something from today. Thanks for watching.